In this video, I'm going to explain to you why I just bought 50,000 HBAR tokens and why I'm going all in on this project. Now, this isn't just another, Hedera hype video. I'm bringing you some serious information on this project because seriously, people are just not understanding how much growth can really occur here. Now, how much growth? You might be asking, well, let me give you some numbers, all right? So 50,000 HBAR tokens, what is this looking like right now? Well, that's about $3,400, right? Not too much. I am rounding down to about 6 cents. Technically, I bought at about 6.7 cents, but let's just keep it simple, right? So the 2020 bull market, this looked like about $25,000. So if demand matched back then and what it's going to be in the future, that's still a good profit, guys, right? And 2025, I am going to very boldly say we're going to look at about a 50x from today's prices, right? And that'll equal about 150 grand. And it's about a $3 HBAR token, and that's not too shabby if you ask me. But if you think that's outlandish, just wait till you see my 2029 price prediction. And then I'm going to give you 5 reasons as to why I am supporting that fact. I think most people are sleeping on these factors and the overall picture, which is, spoiler alert, institutional demand. Okay, people just don't understand how powerful it will be, right? So in 2029, I'm going to go ahead and say $750,000, aka a $15 HBAR token, which is a 250x, therefore turning $3,400 into $750,000, guys. That's a lot of money, right? And that's about a 250x, as I just said before. Now, look, do I think that that's going to be the average price? No, I think that'll be a blow off top, but that's not me retracting what I'm saying at all. I definitely think there is a huge chance that this is going to actually happen, all right? So I want to explain to you the 5 reasons why. If you can stick with me through this video, you will understand why I'm so bullish, okay? So again, it's pretty crazy, but here's how. Number 1, commercial demand, right? So Hedera has poised itself to attack multiple industries, right? Payments, enterprise, gaming, and more. I've highlighted gaming because other protocols can't say that they target the gaming industry as well as Hedera, and that comes down to the protocol itself, right? Next, real application. Hedera is already being adopted right now. And to put you into perspective how early on we are in Hedera, the growth of the network is probably equivalent to a child, right? A 5-year-old child. This guy has so much more to go, and people kind of aren't realizing that. People think the protocol is like in its adolescent stages. It's really not, guys. It's only just beginning, right? And the appeal, okay? So it is more appealing than its competitors because the tech and governance suit commercial customers. You think about being a nation, for example, or a real Web 2 company, and you look at Hedera and go, the governing council is made up of some of the biggest names in the entire world. And also, the tech itself is novel. It's completely new, which is a topic we're going to talk about in just a minute, okay? Next is their partnerships, right? So they have already very, very big partners, real partners, right? IBM, a tech giant. Most of us probably should know IBM, right? Last year, they had about $60 billion in revenue. Revenue, guys. Next, we have HBAR, okay? They're an investment firm with just under $500 billion in assets under management, okay? So these guys will be able to provide some amazing connections to other large businesses for Hedera, okay? But they're using Hedera for their own purposes, okay? Next, we have Avery Dennison, right? They're a manufacturer, distributor. They're also a Fortune 500 company, just as IBM is. And they're in about 50 countries with over 30,000 employees. So very, very big partners, well-established names. And these are just some, right? I've just cherry-picked 3 for you, okay? Now let's talk about the governing council. This also sort of links in a bit to the partnerships, right? So the governing council was chosen by region, okay? Now they offer expertise in a variety of markets. So that's the important thing about choosing companies from different geographical locations, is because while they still might be in the same industry, their target audience, their market is slightly different. Therefore, if Hedera ever decides to actually go out to any of these governing council members, they can say, hey, XYZ project, we're looking at targeting the Indian market. Can you give us a hand? And because they already have connections in that space and they've formed relationships with these, governing council members, even if they're off the governing council, they're going to be a lot easier to actually, find the market, right? So it's not what you know in the world, it's who you know, and that's why I love what Hedera has done here, okay? Now, the Governing Council also has some strict criteria. You must be a prestige company, as you can see by these fellows here, and they must be, again, renowned, right? They have to be industry leaders or leaders by geographical location, okay? Now, Hedera has tried to find, again, different projects by region as well. So they're trying to diversify who currently is on the Governing Council. There's about 39 members on the Governing Council. I'm not going to go into any more information on that. If you know, you know. If not, I've made a video up here on the Governing Council and Board of Directors. I suggest you watch if you want to know more. But what this provides is something a lot more significant. As I mentioned to you moments ago, they provide deep connections. Right now, they're untapped, right? They definitely are forming connections, okay? They'll have connections with all of these major companies in one way or another, but they're establishing connections for future. Once their tech is completed, they can go out and obviously, call up whoever it needs to be from X project and say, hey, can you link us up with whatever they might want them to do, right? Different partnerships, attacking different markets, securing different nations for CBDC implementations, you name it, okay? Next, let's talk about the novel technology, guys, right? It differs from others, okay? It's completely different, right? So it's got fair ordering of transactions, which allows the network to actually be perfect for games. Unlike other cryptocurrencies, they just can't match Hedera, right? Definitely when it comes to gaming. Next, ABFT, right? It might not be the highest security network in the world, but ABFT, or asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance, means that 33% of the network can actively be trying to take this guy down, and they can just keep moving forward, right? Other networks, they can sustain that for a little bit, but then they go down. The network has to close after a while because they just can't handle it, right? But not Hedera, okay? And their staking approach, right? They have a very unique staking approach, which allows users to actually stake their tokens into different applications like dApps, whilst retaining custody of their tokens, which means you can enter yourself in a liquidity pool, or probably a bad example, but you can access a game that might require a amount of tokens. Rather than spending that game itself, your tokens, and them holding it on their wallet, you retain that, they can send proof, and then you can access the game, right? So if that game gets hacked or whatever application that might be, you're not going to get your token stolen, and people just aren't talking about this. It's an amazing feature that I absolutely love, right? Now, next, as I've somewhat alluded to, they have 100% of the market share, okay? So now, only one project in the entire ecosystem uses the hash graph, which, yes, you guessed it, is obviously Hedera. They've essentially created a protective moat around their protocol itself. And if you think about all the iterations of blockchains and DAGs, and then all the iterations of Hashgraph, you can see why, right? There's hundreds, if not thousands, of blockchains and DAGs that, tinker this and tinker that and add security and blah, blah, blah. But, Hedera is completely different. They've gone, okay, we're going to use a hash graph. And they're the only one in the industry, okay? It's huge. And this was a strategic reason. Don't think this was by accident. The hash graph technology was patented for a very long time. And while Hedera got to the position it is, which is they obviously have 100% of the market share, right? But they also, they've also established themselves, so if someone else actually takes the hash graph code, which is now open sourced, they're not going to get to the level of Hedera because they're just so far leaps and bounds ahead of any competition, okay? So that's very important to remember. Now, last is the obvious one, right? It's enterprise friendly, pretty much what I've been saying all along. Now, number 4, we have zero inflation. There are only 50 billion tokens on the network, which is a fixed supply, meaning there's going to be no more, with zero inflation, right? So what that means is when we have lots of demand from institutional or national entities mixed with this fixed supply, what do we get? Right here, guys, exponential gains, okay? So you can imagine once all those 50 billion tokens are out circulating around and pretty much everyone's holding on to them like Bitcoins, right? Well, guess what's going to happen? The price is going to skyrocket, okay? And that's the beautiful thing about Hedera, is that protocol, the network, is designed to be self-sufficient. So staking and all that sort of thing is naturally taken care of, right? And it's up to the community to worry about that. Now, I've kind of estimated in about 5.5 years' time, considering a 10% compounding year-on-year inflation rate based on historic numbers, we should hopefully see most of those tokens in circulation, okay? But there is a little bit more I need to explain to you at the very end of the video that kind of touches on this again, okay? Number 5, we have huge upgrades. So huge upgrades coming. We have permissionless access. Right now, the network is currently permissioned. In future, we're going to have permissionless access, which means anyone can join the network. Also, these guys are looking to create infinite TPS by sharding the hash graph, which is going to be huge, which means, you know, kind of what the name says, the number of TPS, well, there's not going to be a number on it, right? It's just going to be infinite. Next, we have scheduled transactions. This is also a feature slept on, pretty much allows you to schedule a transaction for a certain time, and that transaction will execute without you having to do anything, okay? So it's very, very cool, unique feature that developers can take advantage of, and so can users. And I've added it on here because they are going to be upgrading it to unlimited time, which means you can set this for like 1,000 years in the future, right? So essentially, in 2029, I believe the tech will be completed. I believe for the most part, most of the tokens will be in circulation, and therefore Hedera will have unbelievable real marketability. It can go to projects or companies like Amazon that only work with, you know, fully completed networks or businesses, and go to them and say, hey, we've got connections with all these companies, let's work together. And then, you know, that's when you benefit from different, you know, network effects, okay? So there's a lot to go on here, guys. And that's why I'm so bullish on 2029. Now, this is something I touched on at the start of the video. Do not underestimate the power of institutional demand. I just wanted to reiterate that. And the important thing is, Hedera is not planning to do that. They're already knocking on the institutional door, right? Now, some concerns, because as you know, I'm no BS crypto. I got to be honest with you guys, because, you know, I want to provide the most accurate information for you, because I've been burnt multiple times in the future from really crappy advice, right? So first things first, they recently stopped part of the network, okay? And yes, people were complaining about this, right? It's anti-decentralization, it's this, that, and the other. Sure. However, they aren't permissionless just yet, as we spoke about before. The network is in control of the governing council, okay? So don't get your knickers in a knot, right? They're baby. They're equivalent to a 5-year-old child, right? They're not even in their adolescent stage yet. So they have a long way to go. Matter of fact, they've got 10 more spots to fill for the governing council, okay? So there's a long way to go, guys. Next thing is the governing council could mint more tokens. This is a very real issue that a lot of people are kind of a bit stuck on. And okay, I want to talk a little bit about this, right? So the governing council themselves, because they are the governing council, right? Unlike other protocols that have, you know, referendums based on how many tokens you hold is how much weight you have in that vote. Well, Hedera, it's completely controlled by the governing council. As a matter of fact, the governing council even choose a board of directors, right? So at a moment's notice, these guys could vote. Now, the vote has to be unanimous, which means it has to be all of them have to agree on it, okay? If one of them says no to a vote, it doesn't happen. But essentially, the protocol is if they do want to increase the supply of tokens, they can if they all vote yes on it, okay? Now, that would come down to very situational circumstances, and that would be something that they would obviously talk about with the community first, because if they vote on something that isn't needed, isn't required, there'll be severe consequences, because the community at that point in time, which I'm guessing is going to be in the future at some point, the community will obviously then go attack their personal brands, and that is a very legitimate reason as to why they have to be careful with this sort of thing, okay? So again, it would tarnish the brand of the governing council, so technically it is very unlikely, right? Now, that is going to cover today's video, guys. If you want to learn more, you can. I've created 3 videos on Hedera. I've created 2 full breakdowns of the tech. I've created a full breakdown on the ecosystem and fundamentals. And I've also done a nice little TLDR video that explains pretty much everything I have right now, plus giving my more conservative price prediction. I'll admit, conservative price prediction for 2025. And you can watch them all up the top right-hand corner of your screen now. With that being said, thanks so much for watching this video. Appreciate you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.